Hi, this is Todd Malakote, the SEO faculty for Market Motive and online marketing consultant at stuntdouble.com, and I'm here with a guide to site audits part 2. We're going to look at 12 important site audit areas and about 40 or so questions within these different areas. In the first part of the series, we looked at why site audits were important. We covered some of the different areas. We looked at what some of those 12 important areas are. And in this section, we're going to look at the questions themselves. We're going to look at the concept involved with things like duplicate content or image optimization or meta description writing and title writing. We're going to look at the tools that we use to pull this information and store it. And then we're going to talk about the optimal results for given websites, and this is always an area of debate. Certainly we're going to look at what might be the optimal result for the site that we'll use as an example here, and then document the different types of problems that arise from this question and this information, and then we'll try to make a recommendation around what that optimal result would be for the site owner, for the developer to change, so that we end up with the site that's optimized from the process of this site audit documentation. So this process is ongoing. We're constantly doing research with different tools. We're documenting, we're analyzing, and we're making recommendations. We're going to investigate these problems individually, running the tools, and then reviewing the data will prioritize these outcomes in the 12 different areas. We're going to start with content. Again, there's probably 50 questions with content alone that we could ask, but for terms of this series, we're just going to look at a few questions in each of these areas to get an idea of how a site audit works and how it should be organized and how we can make recommendations to the website owners. So within each of these areas, we'll look at about 40 different questions. Here's the list of where you can get those. Andy Cushing has a document full of a variety of questions. I've developed a PDF document that's available there as well with additional questions. So you can really dig in as far as you want with a site audit. But let's start with each of these individual areas. We're going to start with the executive summary. Leave this alone. You're going to write this at the very end after you've learned everything about all your data pulls. This is going to be your final analysis. This is the first thing the executive is going to read. So you want this to be the last thing that you write with the most important, most valuable, most prioritized information of what's wrong with the site and what can be fixed with the lowest amount of effort and the most benefit. So we're going to start with different content areas. The first question we're going to look at, in any place you see investigate here, we're just going to do pretty much what that question says. So is there content duplicate on other pages of the website? Meaning, is there duplicate content on the website? There's lots of different ways we could look for this information and find this, and this is just a very simple question. So the simplest way we can answer this is by doing a search in quotes for some of the text. We can also check Copyscape. So we'll be working with phishingstatus.com as my site audit project. So we go to phishingstatus.com, and the first thing I see, and I'm just already aware that there's some duplicate content here, but you can do a search any place that you suspect there might be duplicate content. We can see these phishing reports come from other people's websites, so we really don't want Google to see that on our site. And the reason we know that is because we copy and paste some of these into quotes into Google, and we see that originally came from here. It's also on Point Click Fish. They're aggregating this information as well. So we might want to consider blocking that with robots.txt. So a good result here would be less duplicate content. There's an acceptable level of duplicate content on any website, but this is one way that we can check for that duplicate content. We can also try Copyscape. We can go to copyscape.com, and you can see I know that some of my articles are duplicated with stuntdouble.com, so I tried that one, and you can see that other sites have been scraping this. We may or may not be able to get them to take that down, but again, this is just some more example of how we're using this question and this tool, being just Google or Copyscape, to test for duplicate content. Now, we're going to take some screenshots of this. This is nothing too serious here, but if we did find something serious, we might take a screenshot. We might save that URL. We can save this in a variety of different ways, but we're certainly going to put something in here and say there is duplicate content, and we might do a screenshot of that and mention that someplace else in this document as well. So we grabbed our screenshot. I like to use Snagit from TechSmith. It's a companion to Camtasia. It just allows you to do some nice arrows and that sort of thing. But you can see I grabbed the screenshot. I threw that into the document here. I just made a little note on what type of duplicate content I was seeing. So we're going to go on to the second question here in our list, and that's, are there pages that are missing H1 tags? Now you can debate the merits of whether H1 tags are important or not anymore, but this is one of the things that we're going to just investigate and take a look at. So you can see how Annie's documented this. This is what we need to do. We'll go right into Screaming Frog and see if there are H1 tags that are missing. And so we can filter here by all these different areas. We'll look at H1s, and then we'll do our filter here. Are there duplicate? Yes, they're duplicate. Well, we want to, again, document some of this. We'll do a screenshot here. We'll just take a quick screenshot of this, and we'll just toss this right into this document. We can see easily that there are some H1 tags that are duplicate and or missing, and we're going to copy and paste that little screenshot in there and just do a little write-up that says, yes, there are some duplicate content issues, some duplicate H1 issues. So a positive result here might be that we include or create some H1 tags on pages that are missing, or if we have duplicate or multiple H1 tags, that we reduce that to a single H1 tag. These are the type of recommendations we would make for this particular question. Now we've looked at some very simple questions here to begin with, just to understand this process of documenting and making recommendations and just looking at individual areas. We started with content. That's a couple pretty simple questions there that we asked, but we have 11 more areas to look at. So the next thing we're going to do is an overall crawl of the site. I highly recommend Screaming Frog for this. You can see that I've done this for phishing status here, and this has pulled several 100,000 pages because there's lots of extraneous pages in phishing status currently. The easiest way that you can do this is just to run a cite command in Google. And the same thing, you can see that we have about 568,000 pages indexed. Now I know there's not that many pages on here that are unique content, that aren't information that can be gathered from other sources, aggregate information. This is a lot of duplicate content, so we really have to choose our battles with regards to duplicate content. You can see I have URLs that are duplicated, all kinds of duplicate content issues we'll find in here as we go through those 600,000 pages. So if you know you have a 100-page website and all of a sudden you have 3,000 pages indexed, there's something wrong here. You need to block some of these pages and keep them from getting indexed. Now, the Research Central at Raven Tools is fantastic for digging up some of these errors and issues. The same can be said of the Moz tool. The on-page graders. There's some other excellent tools within Moz. These are going to answer a variety of these questions that we're going to ask in a site audit, and that's why they're such valuable tools. And again, Webmaster Tools is going to tell me some great information here as well. You can see that the number of total pages indexed in Webmaster Tools, and this is under Google index status, has gone up over time. At a certain point it was 229,000 pages. Something else was added here and a change was made in end of January of 2013, and now this has skyrocketed to almost 400,000, 500,000 pages. So we got to figure out what's going on there. With asking these questions, we've identified a problem, and now we need to fix that problem. Is there more pages indexed than exist on the site? In this case, this is absolutely true. We used the cite command. We looked at indexed pages under the Advanced tab in Google Webmaster Tools there. So again, we would document that. We would put this in here and go on to the next question. So, is there a custom 404 page? A good result here is there is a custom 404 page. This is another question, and we'll go through these each individually to see if there is a custom 404 page to answer each one of these questions. And in this case, it's just a blank page. This is a pretty terrible 404 page. You don't want somebody coming here and then never coming back to the site if they got a bad link. You have to acknowledge that with your users and let them know that they didn't do anything wrong and that there is a custom 404 page. Here's, with this one, I'll have an example at stuntdouble.com of a custom 404 page. You can see, oh, nope, nobody home. And it wasn't your fault. You might have been looking for these, and it gives you some suggestions here. Search functionality is good, but again, I have search functionality up here on this website. But with phishing status, we would say, okay, there is no custom 404 page. We don't want to lose that traffic if there's a link broken. It's just a blank page. So we would go back into that document and we would say, there is no custom 404 page. This needs to be created. At this point, I would probably look for a couple solutions for how to create a 404 page. In this case, our site is in ASP.NET, and I would include a couple of these links for the developer so that they could include a custom 404 page. Maybe also provide a landing page for that page of what's good practice there as well. General good practice for a custom 404 page: acknowledge that the user did nothing wrong and give them some suggestions or search functionality on what they might be looking for. It's good to capture those 404 errors and find out what they are, what people are searching for. You can get that within Google Analytics. You can get that within crawl errors here. And this is good information to find areas that are broken on your website. So are there 404 pages on the website? We're going to check that next. We'll go under Google Webmaster Tools and crawl. And then we're going to look for crawl errors here. And under crawl errors, we'll get some ideas on if there's some 404s or other problems. In this case, not too many 404s. We have a couple soft 404s. It's probably a good idea to find out what's going on here. It looks like these are the URLs. It identifies those, and then we can export that list of URLs. We can download those as a CSV and dump that again into our document or into a folder for later reference. The recommendation here is obviously going to be find out what's going wrong with these pages and change the URLs, change the links so that there aren't those 404s or soft 404s within the website. Next question, are there other site or page errors? So we can find this within crawl errors, the same place we just were. We're going to go in here and look for maybe there's access denied, no followed, other errors, maybe a 301 or a 302, and we can look through these URLs and see if there's any major issues. We have some 400 response codes, which isn't very good. We're going to look at these different errors and see if we can make recommendations to fix those. Next question, does the site navigation use JavaScript? We can use the web developer toolbar that we looked at earlier and disable some of these things. We'll disable JavaScript, all JavaScript. You can see I have it turned off for the site. And there's a lot of things missing on the site with that turned off. There's not this. The navigation here does still work, which is good. It's text links, so this is something that would be okay. So after getting through about 7 of these questions, we've come up with some information. We've identified some problems. We know that there's duplicate content issues. We're going to continue to investigate and ask different questions around duplicate content and around these areas of the site. Then we're going to form some recommendations. We're going to say these areas are causing duplicate content. These areas are causing errors. These are the robots.txt or URL changes that need to be made, and that goes into your recommendation section under each individual area of the 12 areas that we'll talk about. We talked about 2, we talked about content and the crawl, and just looking at what is indexed in the site. So now we have some good ideas. 2 of these 12 areas we've covered, and we can start to make some brief recommendations here and say there's a variety of duplicate content on the site. This is what needs to be changed. And those are the recommendations. Certainly for all 7 of those questions, all 7 of those didn't have problems. Some of those had the good output that we were looking for. The navigation didn't use JavaScript, so we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to mention that in our recommendations. But there were some other page errors. There were some 400 errors that we have to document and make recommendations about. And then we'll continue to go on to the next area.